Thank you, Brother Naba, for once again joining us for another episode for Behind the Final Call cover story. A lot is going on and it keeps on coming. It keeps on coming. And of course, the Final Call keeps on keeping the people abreast on what's going on. This edition of the paper is titled No Reason to Shoot Him. Why this cover story? Assalamu alaikum, Naba.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. Well, this is, of course, probably the biggest story in the country right now. The killing of Rayshard Brooks, or his killing at the hands of two police officers. We can say now that, as an update, of course, Garrett Rolfe, the officer who fired after the shooting, is now facing felony murder charges, and he turned himself in today. A second officer who was involved or who was on the scene also been charged in the shooting as well. He is now out on bond. He was charged after stand. He's charged with 3 counts, including aggravated assault and violations of oath. He is still on the police force. Mr. Rolfe is now been fired. Devin Bronson is the other officer who remains on the force. Prosecutors say he stood on Mr. Brooks's shoulder, and the officers also failed to readily give aid to Mr. Brooks, who was shot twice by the police officers. So interesting development in that sense. The other thing in terms of the charges, the other thing that we know now is that as of last night, half of the Atlanta police force failed to show up for work today or last night. And now you are seeing a shift in the media coverage talking about the disgruntled officers, the besieged officers, the demoralized officers following this relatively quick indictment of the officer who shot and killed Rayshard Brooks. So for us, I mean, a very painful story. I think if you read the piece on the Final Call, we try to handle it with the care that it deserves, but very painful. It's interesting to me that last night we had a very emotional reaction, very emotional story coming from the widow of Rayshard Brooks, who was only 27 years old. And I think you can expect today and tonight for that media coverage to shift now, to talk about police. But what you're seeing in Atlanta is an orchestrated campaign led by the police union and backed by officers. And these unions are very powerful now, and white media is basically telling their story instead of questioning how any officer sworn to serve and protect can deliberately fail to do their duty. But in our coverage, the inside cover was, we are tired. Police killing a Black man takes toll on his family and those familiar with heavy-handedness of police. So if you go to finalcall.com, you can read that story. I think it's very important that we show the human cost of these tragedies, that we show that when our people lose a loved one, it's a really deep and abiding pain. Father's Day will be coming up soon. Rayshard Brooks was the father of 3 daughters and the stepson of a son. They won't see him this Father's Day. They won't see him again. So very sad, very tragic. And we've got some good coverage, though, some good reaction from some people, some good reporting out of Atlanta. We will be continuing to follow the story. But again, one of the latest developments, which I think is disturbing, and I think that people should be disturbed by it, is this decision by the police union and police officers for officers not to come to work. The question could be asked, is this an attempt to hold the city of Atlanta hostage? And we've seen it before, we've seen it over and over again. So for several weeks now, at least a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks, you've seen this narrative of Black pain, Black demands for justice, Blacks trying to explain themselves, Whites trying to show sympathy. I think today you're seeing a bigger beginning of the white backlash. None of the labor unions, well, I'm sorry, none of the police unions, I don't think, are giving in. They're rather digging in their heels. You had 57 officers, for example, in New York, Buffalo, New York, resigned from their special unit. They didn't resign from their jobs, though, after they pushed down an elderly white man who remains hospitalized. They resigned because the two cops who pushed this unarmed white man, 70-something years old, frail, posing no threat, hit his head. He's still in the hospital. Two officers were charged in accord with what happened to him. And 57 officers resigned from an entire unit. You've had officers resign in Florida because in one department, the chief and some other officers had the audacity to kneel with protests and people from the community. So again, if for those who thought that change was clearly on the horizon, we'll see. But you can bet the police union and police officers are not going to simply allow themselves to be held accountable. They're going to fight. They have been fighting. You've now had even officers that kneeled have said they're sick, they're angry at themselves for kneeling. You've had police union leadership condemn those who would kneel and those who would stand with the community. So again, for everybody that thought that, this was going to be a great day and it was going to happen all of a sudden, we'll see what happens.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Brother Naba, for that. And it's definitely have been, very eventful, and everything. These things just keep on coming one after another, one after another, and we cannot expect those things to stop anytime soon. And I'm gonna take an opportunity to pop in and let everyone know that if you didn't know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is planning to speak to the world on July 4th, 2020, live broadcast. You'll be able to catch it at noi.org/webcast. You do not want to miss this message. It's a message of guidance. It's a message of encouragement that we are in a time like no other time before. So if you have questions, which many do, make sure that you are planning to inform all of those. This, a lot of people are doing these setups where they get on Zoom and they watch different shows, or they watch something and they're able to discuss it. Man, take the opportunity to do that with his message on the 4th of July. It is going to be at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. Please make sure you check it out. So
yeah, I think that's great. July 4th, 10 a.m. Central, right?
Yes, sir.
NOI.org. You have the opportunity to hear from the minister. We've not heard him really speak publicly like that in some time, but certainly I would say this is a message that none of us want to miss, in particular in a time like this.
And in addition to that, this is the 90th anniversary of the Nation of Islam. People have asked, where are we at? What have we been doing? We've been here. We've been doing the same work and just striving as much as we can to do what we've been doing, but do it better, more efficient, more effective, and at a faster pace. So we, of course, as was mentioned, that there are things that are going on. The current focus of attention right now has shifted a little bit as we've been dealing with all of that has been going on with our brother Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta, Georgia. But there's still updates that are coming along, and not only with that, but what's going on with the police and those things as it relates to his case. But there's also some other things that are going on as it relates to the previous case, where our attention was. And you know what? I have to make sure I'm cautious of saying that, because, one of the things that has come up is that, there's a lot of these killings that happen that never make the news. And it's important that we don't just limit it to the ones that make national news and think that these are isolated incidents. One of the reasons why this is so important is that not that this one happened and this one happened, but these are only representatives of a greater issue. If it, and sometimes, because we know how the media plays and spin things, sometimes there's certain individuals that are allowed and pushed forward because we know that we are able to better handle that all of us have things, or many of us have things that in our past that we wouldn't necessarily like to be presented in front of the whole world. But that doesn't justify that our lives should be taken. So just always have to remember that even though we see these cases that make national news, there's several more that don't. But with that,
I think, Brother Troy, the other thing that we're seeing, we're now seeing people calling for the reopening of previous cases.
Mm-hmm.
So this latest thing with the killing of George Floyd, who died while in the custody of Minneapolis police officers, and an officer kneeled on his neck for nearly 9 minutes. There's been such an outpouring, or there was such an outpouring and such an amount of activity in the streets, as well as destruction. We're not calling for the destruction of property, but I don't think you get where we get, unfortunately, until property is destroyed. This country seems to value that more than it values life. So, in terms of the cops accused of killing George Floyd, we are still waiting for that process to go forward, and we've got a little bit of an update in this week's paper. So you should go check it out and keep an eye on exactly where these cases go. That's very important.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm looking, and it looks like, late in the day, we don't have as many people who are popping on, so we still want to encourage you to, I know we're a little late. It's on Thursday, and it's in the evening, and everybody was waiting for us on Tuesday, and it didn't happen. But hey, we're working to make sure that we can get the things done that need to get done to the best of our ability. So want to thank those who are joining us, and please encourage you to like and share. And let us know where you're coming in from. It's always interesting to see that information. So we got, let's see. So we got the someone joining us from YouTube that's saying that the only change they think is coming is the pilling of their hypocrisy.
Yeah.
We got, I guess I should be reading these before I pop them up on the screen, right?
Go ahead, you can read them while you pop them up.
What would you say to those who have the nerve to say that the brother murdered should not have resisted his arrest, and he would still be alive? My view is that it doesn't justify shooting him when he was fleeing. You got any thoughts on that? So, the brother was resisting arrest.
Well, I think the most poignant answer to that comes from the district attorney that decided to decided to charge the officer with a major count of murder.
Mm-hmm.
Major. So if a prosecutor looked at this video and did a legal analysis, and that legal analysis said this man's life was taken unjustly and it was murder, to me, that says it all. That says it all. Nothing else matters to the degree because it's not just that he resisted. You would have to go through the whole 40 something minute episode, talking with the cops, very calm, offering to walk home, talking about plans with his daughter, talking about Mr. Brooks, Brother Rashard Brooks, to the scuffle. At the end of the day, he's running away. George Floyd wasn't running away. He was submitting. What happened to him? You could even say that Eric Garner in Staten Island, New York, really wasn't resisting because he was a pretty big guy. He wasn't resisting. He ended up dead. I think Sandra Bland was compliant with the officer that pulled her over really for no reason. And, she ended up dead. At the end of the day, I think there's only one question. Was the use of force, deadly force, justified?
Right.
That's all that matters. Was the officer in imminent danger, or was somebody else in imminent danger of serious injury or losing their life? And if not, you can't kill people. It's already been well established, quote unquote, in law that you are not allowed to shoot somebody simply because they're running away.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, I see we have Barbara Shepard that's logging in. Thank you for your support. Who's logged in from New York. We got Gabriel Lopez, who is coming in from Montreal, Canada. Daryl Sadler from Denver, Colorado. We have Wynn Sprinter from Maryland. We got Robert Abdullah from Present Sir, Las Vegas. We got Mario, I'm sorry, from Florida. It's time for new glasses. We have Daryl Sadler. He says he was shot in the back. And I believe
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what the prosecutor said.
I'm not going to mess this up, but we have DeMarcus from Shreveport, Louisiana, Samantha from Charlotte, North Carolina. A taser is a deadly weapon deployed
or not. It's not a deadly weapon.
Oh. I'm going to leave you to read it, Brother Naba.
A taser is not a deadly weapon, deployed or not. Again, and these tasers operate all kinds of different ways. Some you got to charge them before they can even be activated, right? Others, it's not like a gun where you have an endless supply. Maybe some you have maybe one shot, some maybe you have two or whatever. So that's a whole different discussion. But absolutely, as I heard one of the analysts say, if you cannot shoot somebody who's running away with a gun, if you shoot somebody who's running away, that's just you cannot do that, period.
And I've watched so many things, and one of the shows that I saw, and you can probably help me with this, but was it a governor that said that, they could not have imagined our brother being killed if he was white?
No, I didn't see that, but many people are now starting to concede that reality. Why? Because you can go on YouTube, just Google white folks police chases. White folks didn't die. And you will see incident after incident after incident after incident. I saw one of the white men with a hatchet, swinging it at the cops, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not saying that people should be killed. Be clear on that. What we're saying is that when you look at decisions that are made, right? We're saying that a decision is being made. A decision is being made not to take white life, and a decision is being made to take black life. That's the point.
Yes, sir. And I'm looking for really questions because we're not going to stay on that long tonight. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments that you all have about the show, about the coverage we've had, about what's going on in the news right now. Just wanted to make sure we jumped in. I know, of course, I know what article we'll end on, or articles we'll end on. But if there's anything that you all would like to hear from us, we really want to make this show a lot more engaging and really speak to what our audience is looking for. And of course, the birds are creeping. Okay, here we go. Here we go. We have. I'm leaving you to the reading because Lenore X, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for delivering the Black media to our community, Phoenix, Arizona. These dark forces are demonic and they are not going to stop until we stop them. And I think that point is really important. And of course, if you've heard me on the show before, is that I'm a big proponent of the course of study that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has given us, which is self-improvement, the basis for community development. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that with the Millions More movement, as well as 10-10-15, just as well, is that the minister has really urged us to make our communities a clean and decent place to live. So that is our responsibility that we have to take on, where we hold those accountable and responsible for their behavior that is unjust, but we can't expect that our condition is going to be made better because of some well-meaning people who have not demonstrated any desire to improve our condition. So we have to take on that responsibility. If things are going to change, is going to be because we make it. Thank you. Thank you. Victoria Willis from Lancaster, California. So tired.
Victoria Williams.
I said we leaving you with the reading. I do know how to read. I think I do better with the contacts than these glasses. Victoria Williams, Lancaster, California. So tired of the extreme evil on our beautiful Black people. Dark Sun, sir?
No, I was going to say it is very distressing. And we have to be aware of our mental health and our spiritual health. So do those things that help you to manage this pain. I mean, I was really the last few days struck first by the killing of, or the death of George Floyd, and then the killing of Rayshard Brooks. Mm-hmm. Very, very hurt by it. But I would say, sister, please make sure you tune into the minister because on July 4th, because I think he will offer a perspective unlike any other that I think will help us all cope a little bit better.
And that's really important because, even with the COVID-19, is that one of the things, and I encourage you all to check out Student Minister Ava's show, Elevated Places, on Blog Talk Radio. But one of the things that she's been lifting is the importance that we're cautious of what we take into our minds. Mm-hmm. Because with that is that these things actually weaken your immune system. Mm-hmm. Fear, stress, all of these things are things that do actually have not only a negative impact on your mind, but it has actually a negative impact on your body. So you can't, even though when we want to be abreast on what's going on, and we should be, we have to make sure that we're taking a step back from this because it is not good for you. It's just not. So Brother Naba said, please make sure you're keeping your mental health in check.
Yeah, yes. I mean, and it's a balance,
Yes, sir.
And I've been trying to balance myself, but like I said, July 4th, 10 a.m. Central on NOI.org. Hear the voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I think he will give us a wonderful perspective that will help us and give us insight into what's going on.
Yes,
I think that's going to be helpful.
We'll, of course, end on the minister's article. Are there any other articles that we got to get through? We're not going to cover the whole paper.
Yeah, well, I would say we've got one, Hope or Hype, on page 5. Very important, talking about this federal anti-police brutality or police accountability legislation authored by the Congressional Black Caucus and the Democrats. Now the Republicans also have a bill. So please go to Final Call and read that. It's going to be interesting whether or not these two bills, the one in the House and the one in the Senate, are able to be reconciled. My question is, if you cannot pass effective federal policing legislation now, when will you ever be able to do it? And if you can't pass effective federal legislation, what does that say about all the talk of change?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking for more comments. The truth is clear. War has been declared, ready or not. I've never in 49 years looked to the police to protect me, ever.
And that says something. If you go to my personal Facebook page, Richard Muhammad, I just did a little video kind of mentioning that. We are people who have been taught. I remember being taught as a child, not as a teenager, but as a child, that if I'm in a situation, see if I can get out of the situation. If I can get out of it, get out of it. If I can't get out of it, call the police as the absolute last choice. So what does that say about us and our experience and the level of uncomfortability, anger, rage, fear, discomfort? Some of us, we don't like to see nobody in uniform. Not the police, not the mailman, not the doorman at the hotel, because these uniforms represent something to us. They don't represent peace. They don't represent goodwill. They don't represent safety. They actually represent a threat to us. And look at how long we have suffered under this. And when we talk about it, all the Black folks agree. So, man, you talking about officers feeling like they're besieged because a couple people got indicted for doing wrong? Do you want the right to shoot Black folks in the back? I mean, is that what you want?
Interesting day and time to be living in. One thing that I have to say before we jump to the article from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if there's not any pressing ones that you want to, is that, you know, as the cities are opening up, is that, you know, I personally, and I can't expect everybody to do this, but I'm going to look to the guidance of one who has constantly and continuously given divine guidance that has, you know, has been prophetic. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan delivered a lecture in February, our Savior's Day convention, called The Unraveling of a Great Nation. And not 30 days after that, we were in witnessing the unraveling of a nation in quarantine. And even as they're telling you it's okay to go out there, you know, and we're seeing even in many places, even going back to China, that the cases are increasing, is that I would be wise about putting my hands and my destiny into someone's hands who was consumed about making money. So I would just encourage you to be cautious out there. Be cautious out there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and even there even reports now of cases on the rise in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's reports of cases on the rise in Florida. There are reports of cases on the rise in Texas. So definitely, brothers and sisters, you want to be careful and try to preserve your life. And again, I think July 4th, you will have a great opportunity to hear from a man who will be able to help you distinguish between what is good, what is better, and what is best, and will give you something to think about. And I think guidance you can use to help protect yourself and your family.
Yes, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's go ahead and jump to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's article.
Yep. Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's article this week is the day of America's downfall. And he just talks about the evil of these people, how they have killed us, how they have been merciless against us, but how the God has come to deliver us. So it's a pretty powerful message, very, very timely. You can check it out at finalcall.com. You can also buy the book, Message to the Black Man in America, at store.finalcall.com. Or go to Final Call and read that article and others by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I can guarantee you, if you're looking for truth, you will not be disappointed.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we're going to jump to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's article, which, of course, you can always find those messages in the Final Call every edition. And we encourage you to get the books of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. A day and time is coming is that we couldn't have told many of us that we would be in a position that you wouldn't be able to necessarily get a newspaper, right? A physical newspaper. Many of us would not have believed that we would be in a situation where we were limited in our access and our movement and had to, maybe in some instances, depending on what part of the country you're in, had to second guess what time you were able to go out, or if you were able to go out when you desired. And if you went out and were able to get out, would you be able to get access to the things that you want and you desire? Get the books of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Get The Fall of America, so that in this day and time that you'll have divine guidance. Of course, one of the other books, 2-volume books that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has is How to Eat to Live, book 1 and book 2, which there's always an article in the Final Call that deals with the diet and those things that we can do that can help to strengthen our immune systems and put us in a much healthier condition. So, Brother Naba, we have in this edition of the paper, Is America Headed for Civil War, by the Honorable Minister Louis.
I think, you know what, you really got to read this article and consider that it was written well before what we're seeing in the streets. But consider this. You have the protests in the streets against police brutality. You have the antagonism with police. You have the president calling himself the law and order president, who himself at one point said that he wanted active duty troops in the street. You have a shooting and the killing, and we're going to cover this next week, inshallah, on the Final Call, of a black officer. You may have heard about him being shot during the protests in Oakland. Now it turns out a prosecutor is saying he was not shot and killed by anyone associated with anti-police brutality, that there was a man as part of a group, a white kind of anti-government group, and they went hunting to kill a police officer, and they used the protest as a cover to kill this black officer and wound his partner. So these are very important pieces, and I say that to say, as we talk about, is America headed towards civil war? I mean, you've got a lot of white folks angry at this government, very angry. So please read the minister's article, consider it, consider the guidance that he gives. It's really unparalleled. And that's a very deep question, the question of whether or not you can bring a country together, or will it continue to fracture until it breaks apart? But he talks about the lack of civility and the lack of even attempting to listen to one another and to arrive at a point of truth. He talks about the anger, the acrimony between people who believe differently or people who see politics differently. You've got that today. You've got a president that feeds into it. You've got a lot of frustration. You've got a heavily armed population. So please read the minister's article. I think it's very instructive. And we'll let you judge that for yourself. And you can go to finalcall.com to check it out. And you can go to finalcall.com, finalcalldigital.com to subscribe.
Thank you, Brother Nabu. We're not going to stay long tonight. Just hope and pray that everyone is being safe Somebody did pose a question, which I think we should at least address a little bit, and I'll throw it at you. Should people physically intervene when a brother or sister is being assaulted by police officers?
I think everybody has to make their own decision based on what they see at the time. I think that we all have to do that. I think ideally, if we can help to avoid the escalation, which I've done. I've come down the street and seen a young brother shirt off, mad as hell, talking to a police officer. Not talking, really yelling and cussing. And I walked over to the young brother, talked to him in a very calm, low voice, put my arm around him, said, "Come on, man, let's walk with me, man. Walk with me. It's not worth it. These people will kill you, brother. Come on and walk with me." So I think anytime we can help our people out of those types of situations early, we do that. And whatever else you do, let your conscience and your God be your guide.
I couldn't think of any better advice to give, is that you have to do what's on your heart and what's in your capacity and ability to do. But we're not going to hold you. Please be safe. Don't miss the opportunity to hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on July 4th, 2020 at noi.org/webcast, 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, and 1600 GMT, whatever that is. And
Greenwich Mean Time.
Say it again.
Greenwich Mean Time. That's like if you're in the UK, Europe, that kind of situation.
Yeah, all of that. So thank you once again for joining us for Behind the Final Call Cover Story. Until next time, assalamu alaikum. Peace.